Uh, Aaron Rodgers just keeps getting more Aaron Rodgery. And I'd actually gotten this one for Baker. Here we go. And these are the kind of sports stories you will like or be offended by. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, says Pro Football Talk at NBC Sports, should finish his career with the Seahawks. Seattle coach, speaking of, Pete Carroll has shown some 9/11 truther tendencies as well. I did not know that, although he looks like he would. Appearing on the Brenneman Show podcast, former Packers quarterback Deshaun Kaiser said that Rodgers asked Kaiser whether he believes that 9/11 actually happened. I believe this is when they first met. Let's take a look at the video.
Shut the door, and the first thing that comes out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth was, "Do you believe in 9/11?"
Do you believe in it?
What? Do I believe in 9/11? Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't I? He was like, "You should read up on that."
I can hear him saying it.
Okay. Now we start learning about the playbook and stuff. I'm like, wow. Like, I don't know where this is going. But what it ended up being was just like a real thought experiment where he wanted me to go back and look into some of the conspiracies around it and provoke a lot of great conversation. And we really bonded over that. And, we started sharing some books and talking about some other things and got into history and business and finance. But ultimately, the reason why that was such a great year for me personally, it was that I realized that this guy, in my opinion, is the best thrower of the football of all time. He spins the ball better than anyone else. I've never seen the ball jump out of a guy's hand. There's something in the elbow and the wrist that just makes the ball kind of have a little more velocity than anyone else. And he is a
do we have Baker on Line Fun? 12:30 or 12:55, either or. Let's go to the graphics, then we'll get his thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, former CIA covert operations officer, CEO of the Portman Square Group, a global intelligence firm, and host of Season 2, and coincidentally, Season 1 as well, of Black Files Declassified on the Discovery Science Channel and Discovery Plus app. How are you, buddy?
Hi, beautiful wave.
Hello, everyone.
Wow, well, he is half limey, ladies and gentlemen. That much we know. Where were you born again? It was, was it Brighton?
Cogsalt.
London. South Ruislip, just outside London.
Did you have an accent when you were a kid?
I did. I had several of them. I couldn't settle on one. I couldn't. I finally ended up talking like Gru from Despicable Me. So I'm very sorry for being late. I was on a call that ran well over its prescribed time, so I apologize because my intention had been to get on earlier than usual, and then I screwed that up.
We always plan accordingly, as we know that you are a very, very busy assassin. But we had just run a clip of a former backup quarterback for the Packers talking about how his first meeting with Aaron Rodgers is he sits down, and then, as I quote, Aaron Rodgers looks at him and goes, "So, do you believe in 9/11?" And then proceeds to recommend some books as to why this guy should start questioning everything. Your thoughts?
Aaron Rodgers. He either was going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, or he was going to be one of those guys that just follows the band Fish around for months at a time and whirls around in the parking lot. It was one or the other. He couldn't decide, and I think he's tried to straddle both worlds. But no, the 9/11 deniers, it's time to box up your tinfoil hats and put them away.
I'll tell you what, back in the day when it was a little more fresh, man, they used to piss me off. But now I just kind of feel sorry for them.
Yeah, it's almost like how is this still a thing?
Right.
Yeah, I know, exactly. How is it, how at this point? But it's like Holocaust deniers, right? You can't, there's just certain things that are never going to go away completely. People, I don't know, there's something about a conspiracy theory that there's a certain personality that loves them and just digs in and refuses to let go. So
it's narcissism. It's that they think they know something that no one else, the greater population, hasn't been able to really pinpoint yet, and that they have somehow been blessed by the genius gods and figured it all out.
Yeah, are there genius gods? I didn't realize there were that's because maybe I've been praying to the wrong one.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering when questioned and vetted as a possible operative for the CIA, do recruits? I'm assuming they have to get very much into their belief system, and I would also furthermore assume that conspiracy theorists are not high on their list of people they want to recruit, particularly since the CIA ends up being the focal point of a lot of conspiracy
Or
theories.
really the better question, how do I hide it?
How do I? Yeah, exactly. No, you know what? Actually, it's interesting because the religion question is a good one. It's just that even the agency realizes they gotta walk carefully, right? You can't.
Right.
You're not going to just go and because there's all sorts of trouble there if you start asking people about their religious beliefs. So they really don't, they shy away from it. They look at it from other perspectives, right? They look at your lifestyle issues and they're more concerned about your potential narcotics use than do you go to church on Sundays, and if so, which one? That's not really an element of concern for them. They're looking for, it's always the same. They're looking for disciplined individuals, who are motivated, who, understand, responsibility and, have kept their nose clean over the years.
I wonder if back in the day that they had issues with atheists. I know it's certainly, you're never going to see an atheist president, at least I don't think in our lifetime.
I think, maybe so. Maybe that's
Maybe that's what we need.
Yeah. Maybe that's the direction we're heading. But I think that you could argue maybe in the 50s and 60s, that it was probably more clear that they were hiring from a smaller pool of candidates, right? It was a much more of an old boys network back then. And coming out of World War II and OSS, it was much more of an Ivy League thing. So
interesting.
I'm sure there was lots of talk about, he's a good Presbyterian or, whatever they are when they go to the Ivy League. I did not go. I was Church of England. But not that the Ivy League didn't want me. They were desperate to have me apply to their schools.
Totally.
I bet they were actually. They just wanted him walking around campus as as the prototypical WASP ideal. Well, I hate to backtrack, but I wonder if there's recordings of Little Baker when he still had a little British accent. Did you have any old film or videos of as a kid? I want to hear what you used to sound like.
If it was him, even if he showed us a video, I would immediately be suspect.
Yeah, no, we did because I think my parents knew where I was headed in life, and so anytime the cameras were rolling, they always brought out the stunt baby. And
another great show, Stunt Baby. Oh man, we've come up with so many Saturday morning kids shows on this show so far, just today. And the other thing, obviously in the news, well, also briefly, what if any thoughts on Jane Zeman? I think he was 98 or some shit. The former Chinese premier just died. In hindsight, does he look better than what we're currently dealing with now? He did oversee Tiananmen Square, right. But then again, if you were a resident of the country, you had a lot more freedom than I believe you have today. I don't know. He just died. Do we care?
Yeah, not really. It sounds terrible, but they're all cut from the same cloth. They just occasionally you get one like Xi or Deng Xiaoping or Mao who they're for a variety of circumstances and personality type they're more capable of commanding more control and locking things down even more than they have been. So Xi it's not that he's a completely different cat. He's just again, cut from the same cloth. He's in the mold of a Mao or a Deng Xiaoping who, he's walking himself towards absolute control. He's basically set himself up as leader for life. And he's very serious. He's been, Xi has been locking that place down in ways that we are having a hard time understanding, right? He's strengthened, muscled up the internal security service. Surveillance of population is increased significantly and is at a level that, again, we think, how could that ever be possible? But so it's, overall, all those people that still think, I mean, look, President Biden, and, he's got some good things about him. He's got some bad things about him. I don't like his foreign policies, but he was in Bali recently and, he's talking about how we're not in competition with China, which is absolute nonsense. Of course we are, right? And even if we think we're not, China is firmly believing that they're in competition with us. So that's the more important issue here. It's not what we think or what our feelings are, but, I'm just worried that we're, during the Trump administration, and again, you could always argue Trump's a bit of an asshole, but, I liked a lot of the policies, and one of them was our attitude towards China finally. But I think we're softening that up and walking it back to where we've been in the past, and that's not going to be good for us, given, Xi's intent.
Baker, there is someone climbing up outside of your house. There is someone. Are you aware?
How are we supposed to take a so-called security expert seriously when you are currently being invaded and you had no idea?
Safety.
No, I know exactly what these guys are doing. They're out there putting claymores around the upper,
You are having some sort of illegal thing installed from somebody that's still at Langley, and you just caught yourself about to.
They're putting lights on your house for Christmas. Okay.
No,
Death lights.
That's right. That's what's happening. It's not. They're not beefing up the security system at all. They're just putting Christmas lights up.
Yeah. Okay.
I love the hidden in plain sight. That mechanical Santa on your chimney is full of artillery. Oh, that's exactly how you would do it.
Yeah.
The Frosty the Snowman, all of a sudden the nose turns into a gun and just fucking fires off anyone getting near the house.
Boy.
Well, the Frosty laughs maniacally just for shits and giggles.
That's right. While White Christmas plays over the loudspeaker system.
Oh, wow. That reminds me of the opening of Scrooged. Fucking great.
Look at MK Improv. Look at my partner from MK Improv.
I told you, Baker, I notice everything. When you're in another country, I look for the outlets.
This was
good.
This was a test.
Yes,
So,
I have passed.
Well, we'll just. I guess we'll go a little. Unless do you have one that's
Any of them.
timely? Okay, I've got. Well, the one that I guess just overall thoughts. We beat Iran. I didn't get the clip of this, but one of the media guys, of course, from Iran, puppet of the country. Immediately starts chastising one of our players, Taylor or something, about how he pronounced Iran or Iran. He's like, let's get that straight right now. And then goes on to ask how he could play for such a racist country, essentially. And this kid, 22, if that, had the best answer and the most gracious. He apologized for mispronouncing Iran, said everything's getting better. I thought he was too gracious. Fuck this guy. But the other, so we have that, and then the other takeaway just being that the protesters in Iran apparently were cheering for America during the Iran-American game, which is amazing. And then, but then the other side of that is you got the Iranian players that even when at the final they did start singing the anthem because their families were being threatened.
Oh God!
If they did not, they did their best of mouthing the words kind of like this, really displaying the fact that they were not happy about it. Thoughts on this? Iran, I guess, specifically. I mean, for the first time in a long time, I guess the U.S. has advanced, so that's good.
No, it is. It's great. It's a great. It was a great win. You can't separate politics from sports when it comes to the World Cup or the Olympics, or really an international event. But this was sort of the pinnacle of the collision of sports and politics, right?
Right.
Because of the adversarial nature of our relationship with Iran. But the players, if you strip away that adversarial issue, and you just make it about individuals and humans, and you realize the Iranian football team, they're just athletes, right? At a high level, you don't get to play for your national, team unless you are, and they're athletes. They just want to play, right? But they were in a completely, unimaginable situation where, on the one side, the protesters for the protest movement in Iran, which is building, right? It's a significant event because they've had protests in the past, but the regime has been able to just tamp them down, make them go away. This one is different.
Right.
But the protesters, and they didn't believe that the Team Melli, that the Iranian team was doing enough to support the protest movement. So they were taking a lot of heat, from the protest movement. And at the same time, of course, you got the regime, you got the mullahs, having surrounded the Iranian team with the Revolutionary Guard there in Qatar, making sure that they stayed on track, that they didn't, do anything untoward against the regime during this World Cup. So they're stuck in the middle. And I think that first game that they had where they didn't sing the national anthem was a very brave move on their part.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And then it was subtle, but it was very brave. And it was probably much more disconcerting to the mullahs than the fact that they lost to the U.S. at the end of the day. And you could see that because obviously they probably put a literal gun to the players' heads after that first game and said, no, you're going to sing.
Oh, completely. Now, and from your end, on the intel that you guys have amassed with regards to how Iran does things, how safe or not are these guys once they get back there? Because on one hand, they've got certainly a spotlight. Secondly, they're the best of the best, so you don't want to kill off the talent for a future World Cup. But third, they did sort of humiliate the regime in front of billions, I repeat, billions of people. Where does Iran go with this?
Yeah, I think, look, they've got the advantage, as you pointed out there. They've got the advantage of being somewhat high profile, right, of being a known quantity, which the protesters don't. Protesters they disappear and nobody knows.
Right.
They're completely anonymous, and hundreds of them have been killed or disappeared at this point. So the fact that there's a spotlight, or has been a spotlight on the players, is somewhat of an advantage, but and again, I would argue that, if they take a figurative beating upon returning home, or a literal beating, it's more about their behavior in that first game, or ahead of that first game where they didn't sing the anthem, than it is about losing. Right? The old Iraqi team, under Hussein, if they lost, they
oh my God,
literally get physically punished and ridiculed upon returning home. From Hussein's family, Qusay especially. So, I think the regime, is probably disappointed, to put it lightly, that they lost to the U.S. because they wanted to use that for propaganda purposes, of course. But, any retribution is going to be probably because the team decided early on that they weren't going to sing the anthem. And then they did what you would expect them to do when their families are threatened, when they're threatened. And they, begrudgingly got on board with the anthem in the next two games.
What, if any, type of protocol is there in something like this or the Olympics? Now, obviously, this isn't going to happen with the Iranian guys for what we all just said. Also, guys, stop having families this young. Come on. Especially if you're a soccer player. Fuck your way through the world. But what if, say, this was a situation where the families weren't a factor and they all said, hey, United States, we want to defect. Is there a protocol in place? Would we say no because it would be such a international incident? What is sort of the protocol for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the protocol, first of all, is not to advise your team players to fuck their way through the world.
Oh, come on. Penicillin cures all.
Yeah. But I think, look, they make no mistake, right? The Iranian, Revolutionary Guard, they had a real presence there.
I didn't know that until you said that.
Yeah. And so from a logistics standpoint, it was probably not going to happen. And Qatar also, right? Look, Qatar is they don't like public dissent, and they had promised Iran that there wasn't going to be any embarrassing moments. Their security personnel were basically working in concert with the Iranians to ensure that there wasn't going to be any any issues with the Iranian team. So, it wasn't as if the World Cup was held in a place of goodness and light where freedom and free speech reigned supreme. So that was helpful to the Iranian regime as well in terms of keeping things under control. But I think it was, you got one other point, which is anytime someone's thinking about defecting from their country, if it's an oppressive regime, their top of mind is, what does that mean for the family I leave behind?
Exactly. That's why Ramius didn't do it until his wife died in Hunt for Red October. But continue. I just wanted to throw that fun fact out.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that, from our perspective, what would our response have been if we had been approached by one or more players who wanted to defect to the U.S.? It's an interesting question, right? Because I think the Biden administration, had kind of blew a good opportunity here in terms of what they could have made for a political statement about the protest movement. And Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, was like, man, we don't want to, it's not about politics, we're just watching the game. And they go, what a bullshit answer from the Secretary of State.
An amazing impression, though. That was uncanny.
It was good, yeah. Yeah, but I'm not impressed with it. Haven't been with this foreign policy team that, is with the current administration. And they didn't do anything to change my opinion as a result of this World Cup and how they dealt with Iran in particular. So, I don't know. You'd like to think that they would have said, great, open arms, come on. But, this administration just seems so intent on not rocking the boat and trying to get themselves back into that 2015 nuke deal that, sadly, they probably would have been. I don't know. It's speculation on my part, but I haven't seen any bold action from them at this stage. So I don't know that they would have been particularly proactive with any potential defectors.
Yeah, I've always wondered if there was anything that was set in place. Any final we went a little long. You're the only person we would go long for, but it was worth it. And also, I have to say, here's what a pro he is: able to stay focused and on point, and ignore Bill morphing into Joanne the entire time. I don't know if you can see, but this all of a sudden, there we go. Oh, it is. That will star in your nightmares.
Sure will. There. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. But very well done.
That's like that shower scene from The Shining where it's a
oh, a little bit. That would be a good one.
It turns into a whatever that is. Yeah.
Another graphic we already have. Joanne is
another beautiful, decaying old woman. Come on. All women are beautiful.
Bill Burr the great comedian. Bill Burr does a great bit on. Never mind. It's probably not appropriate, but. Well, all right then.
Well, thank you so much, buddy. Any plugs, promotions, anything like that?
No, it's my book Company Rules is coming out as an audio book in mid-January. You guys are guaranteed to get one of the very, very, very first, if not the first copy.
That's good.
Promote the shit out of it, but it'll be on the Scribd platform, which of course is the Netflix, the Netflix of books. That's hard to say, Netflix of books.
Netflix.
I have some Netflix. Yeah, I need to take tons.
Don't take Netflix if you're prone to.
He does have a good voice for the audio.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, and we will promote the fuck out of that as soon as it's ready at the prime holiday season buying time of mid-January.